knock up the water. Hold the allegiance and pledge. Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ron Colley. Clarence Marks. Mitch Dowell.
Here.
Roland Huron.
Here.
Roland Henry.
Here.
Bob Paul.
Here.
Neely Roan.
Here.
Keith Kendrick.
Here.
Ron Vegas.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Okay. First of the order, we can furnish the copy of minutes of the regular meeting of March 11th. Your wishes. Second by Roland. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, we have a roll forward. I believe on millage. Mr. Doctor, I believe you have the doctor, right? To be read. Resolution 1902. Be it resolved that the following villages are hereby levied for the 2019 tax roll and all properties subject to taxation by the South and Food Levy District. Villages are levy operations, repair, maintenance, and improvements, 4.86 mills. Another levy operations, repairs, maintenance, and improvements, 5 mills. Be it further resolved that the proper administrative officials of Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana be, and they are hereby empowered, authorized, and directed to spread said taxes as therein set forth upon the assessment roll of the said parish for the year 2019, and to make the collection of taxes imposed for and on behalf of the taxing authority according to law, and the taxes herein levied shall become a permanent lien and privilege on all property subject to taxation as set forth, and collection thereof shall be enforceable in the manner provided by law. The following resolution was read before, and the roll call and adaptation thereof, and we'll have the roll call at this point.
Ron Colley.
Yes.
Clarence Marks is absent. Mitch Dowell.
Yes.
Roland Huron.
Yes.
Roland Henry.
Here.
Bob Paul.
Here.
Neely Roan.
Yes.
Keith Kendrick.
Yes.
Monty Vegas.
Yes.
The vote is 8 yeas, no
Eight
nays.
yeas, one absent.
Therefore, it's been adopted.
Mr. Ronald, can we go ahead and execute that? It needs to be notarized.
You ready?
Yeah, let's do it now, please.
You have it, the original.
Yes, let me,
Because we have to get that in.
send that to the planner.
We can go ahead, but let's get it signed.
Okay, you have your 2.1 tier 2.1 is due May the 15th. You've been furnished, I assume you've been furnished with a copy. Check it out, it's probably all filled out, check it out, make sure it's correct, if it is correct, sign it, and turn it in to her so she can file it with the state. And remember, the upcoming 34th annual ABL conference workshop will be held May the 2nd and 3rd in Baton Rouge at the Holiday Inn Express.
The Crown Royal. Crown
That's
Royal.
one we've been at all these years.
Right.
Royal.
Not Crown Royal.
I'm in.
Definitely. That sounded a little.
Oh, man.
So what you going to just pick that
Never touch
Hey,
that.
we're on executive committee.
Okay, Mr. Ronald, the executive committee met on March 19th at the request of our general manager, and we discussed the Morganda Action Coalition, and because of the finances and the costs and the benefits, we decided to let our membership continue throughout the year, till the end of the year, because it's paid up, and we will be getting out of that association.
And so we'll be reevaluating to see how it goes.
To see how it goes for this year. We might have lost a little bit of our branding. There's some misconceptions. The state thought they would give us a lot of money. $20 million from the South Food Levee District, but it's all from Morgana money. which basically does not help us out a great deal, you know. And so there was that misconception that we had this grant a lot of money, when in fact, we only had $500,000, which was, compared to the money that was going all over the state, was actually very, very, very little. We wouldn't even go from, so, we're gonna discuss that and see how we do the rest of the year. The rest of the group was really supportive, but they were kind of shocked that we didn't do, that we weren't treated fairly, so they're also looking at to help us get that right. And, so we'll see how it goes for the rest of the year and make a decision next year.
Okay, any discussion, any questions on this? Anything else on that?
No, that's it. That's all.
Okay, then we'll move on to, gentlemen, excuse me, anybody in the audience could hear the purpose of addressing the 2, 3 people, Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, thank you, sir. We met this morning. The parish is gonna be getting some funding with the Gomega bonds. And this morning, we met, Wendell was representing South Lafourche 11 districts. Johnny Tuck was representing North Lafourche 11 district. Saman Malone representing Restore Retreat. Armin Otan with Lafourche Parish Council Chairman. And we also had Jimmy Cantrell, Parish President, Henri Boulet with LA1 Coalition, Mr. Vitros, a Parish Administrator. And what we talked about is that this money can be used for drainage and coastal restoration. And we're gonna meet again next Monday, and they're gonna bring in all their projects. Now, we're talking about $12 million. It's a nice chunk of change, but it's, if everybody wants to get a little piece of the pie, so we're gonna meet and then we're gonna bring in the projects next week, and then we're gonna go from there. We're gonna stay with it until this gets done. So we're looking at, Wendell can tell you what he's looking at better than I can, I guess. But that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stay on top of it and make sure everybody gets a fair shake. And there's projects that's needed throughout the parish.
And this is the go basis money. This is the money that the federal government's gonna get through the leases and royalties. Come back to the state gets the biggest chunk, but each parish gets a piece of it. Okay? And this is the money that they're expecting to get over the next, I think, 15 years, you know, it's being bonded out. They have to authorize the bonding of that money. And so it's gonna be a chunk of money, but that's gonna be it for a while, you know, before that bond is paid. So, and we're gonna look at our project, you know, we have, you know, we look at maybe changing the rules, it's a lot, and we have about 7 different levee improvements we need. And so that list lets us go for one big project or a number of others, and we'll see how it falls in with the other projects. And, you know, you gotta look at these things several different ways. As Daniel was saying, you got a lot more projects than you have money for. But you do look at it a couple of ways. You look at the most important ones, and then you look at how can you be fair in doing it. And one of the discussions that I was talking to Reggie, you know, just look at Lafourche, might be fair is 40% goes to North Lafourche, 40% South Lafourche, and 20% for restoration projects. I mentioned restoration projects. Restore is almost totally restoration and no flood protection side. And typically the state is using that Gomesa money for flood protection. So that's another point of the discussion. So we're talking about that. I think it was Daniel's idea to have this meeting, put all the ideas on there, and make sure we get the best project. So I think the first meeting worked out real well the way it's supposed to be, and we'll continue on Monday until we go to that. But it's moving in the right direction to try and get the best project for all of you.
Is there a deadline to come up?
Yeah, they have to, there's a list, I think within 6 months, Daniel, when there's a list they gotta provide to the bonding people.
Okay.
They've got to approve the list, you know.
I think it's sometime in September,
September.
up to September.
Yeah. But we think, you know, that list will be put up in the next couple of weeks, and just within a month, easily, the decision can be made on what project to be put together. Catherine?
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll just get you right there, stand up very well. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Catherine Richard Dale. I want you all to know that I spent 27 and a half years, happy years here, working I've been retired for almost 3 years now, but I still miss my job and my coworkers. But I belong to an organization called Louisiana Volunteers for Family and Community. What we try to do is to do projects for the betterment of families or our community. I'm Lafourche Parish Chairman for the Environment section. And I came up with a project that I'm very competitive, so I want to have the best project in Louisiana. I am collecting knits or any kind of absorbent fabric that people no longer want and are going to throw away, like old t-shirts, old towels and stuff like that. I cut them up into rags and donate them back to the Levee district in the name of the club. And that's a good project for us in 2 ways. First, it's a good recycling project, which environment is always concerned with. And second, it saves taxpayer dollars. For every box of rags that I can donate here, we save $10. Well, so far I've been able to do $75 worth. That doesn't seem like much, but over the years, it amounts to something. And it's our way of trying to help our community. So if any of you have any old t-shirts or just any kind of fabric that can be cut up into rags that you don't want, either drop them off here, and maybe Drake can drop them off to me, or I can pick them up. Or those of you who know where I live can drop them off on my porch. I have 2 rockers on the porch, just put them on one of the rockers. And I will cut them up, and the club will donate them back to the Levee district. So, go through your closets and see what you don't want.
Catherine,
And I thank you.
you work with all the schools too, put a box in every school or something like that, that the kids can maybe bring some stuff to
No,
school?
not yet, but that's a very good idea. I really appreciate the idea. So far, we've been relying more or less on club members and people that we know in the community.
Kids like to get into that kind of stuff, you know, doing something for the community.
Through the schools, that would be very good. And then I'll get some help with cutting rags, 'cause yesterday I spent the whole day cutting rags. I have a bag of them in my car that you will forget.
See, Catherine, I guess got tired, all those years saving pennies for us, which was
Still-
saving pennies down to the penny. So you haven't changed, I know it's a little bit different way, but it's helpful, so thanks a lot, appreciate it.
Anything I can do for the Levee district,
Thank you.
I have been here for all 27 years that you've been working here.
certainly
And I've
were.
got to tell you that you were the hardest working employee we had, and like he said, I remember one going down, we were going to Washington or something or other, and we couldn't eat dinner, so we stopped at the airport. And the only stand, the window that I could get to was the, Sam Adams beer stand. So you ought to eat your hamburger and order a beer. When I turned in my reimbursement, you don't pay for beer, do you? Some drink, and if there's something. That's how close she was.
I was very vigilant on that.
And we miss you, man.
I miss you all.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to, anybody else with the Parish? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to introduce myself, Tim Bagos, I'm the new parish administrator. So I'm here, if anybody needs anything I can help with, please reach out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else? We'll go into general manager.
Okay, well, we'll start off, I invited Tim Marlowe to talk about what they're doing with the freshwater district. You know, years ago, I remember talking to Sherwood Gaglam, you know, talking about some of the issues in coastal Louisiana, you know, he documented the loss of land. And he says, look, we halfway did the plumbing for the lower part of the state, but we got to eventually finish doing the plumbing. And, you know, we got more and more communities are blocking themselves off like us, but we also have to move water through our systems more and more. And again, Ben and the hard work they've been doing in the freshwater district, from 250 cubic feet per second, now we're up to 500 cubic feet per second with the new pump station, 1,000 or more cubic. That's major. That's not a little bit. It's really going to change that situation. We're also looking at putting some navigational floodgates and locks in the coastal canal. So all of a sudden we're kind of blocking. We're going to have to do a better job us communicating and how we're moving water through the system. And so I wanted Ben to kind of talk about what they've done, and they've had tremendous success and some real efficiency in getting some work done. But, you know, back in 2002, I remember drinking a cup of coffee over here, and it tasted like someone had put some baking soda in the coffee. And that was because the saltwater wedge had come up all the way from Fushon to the plant in Clotilde, and actually added enough salt to actually taste it, you know. And the work now that's being done, that's not gonna happen again. You know, it's critical for our drinking water and critical for our future. So Ben.
Thank you, Wyndham. I'll put together a little presentation. It's pretty similar to what I presented to you guys a year ago. Of course, when I get towards the end of the presentation, a lot has changed. We've been really busy over the last year. I'm sorry. The South Lafourche Levee
Take the cover.
You to figure that out.
All right, so the beginning of this presentation, I'm going to kind of fly through because this is pretty similar to what we presented last year. But just in case there are any new commissioners or anybody in the public that's not aware, the freshwater district's made up of 4 parishes: the west side of Ascension, all of Assumption, all of Lafourche, and all of Terrebonne, and that represents Bayou Lafourche there, where it starts in Donaldsonville, the Mississippi River, and ultimately ends at the parish line in Port Fourchon. So the presentation outline, which, like I said, I'll go through pretty quick, is who we are, a snapshot of who we are, our commissioners, what we're mandated to do day to day. Then I'll get into a very brief description, a good schematic of what happened on the north side of the bayou, to understand how we've gotten into the problem we're in. Talk about some of the recently completed projects. Like I said, we've been really busy, really since 2009, but have been very lucky and fortunate to implement some large-scale projects over the last 3 or 4 years. And then ultimately, we'll get into some exciting news that we've gotten recently regarding our current projects and our very near future plans. So this is a snapshot of our board. It hasn't changed a whole lot. We have 2 commissioners from Ascension. These are the 4 from Lafourche, 2 from Assumption, and then also 4 from Terrebonne, with our newest member being seated just last month, Barry Soudier from Chauvin. He represents us from Terrebonne. As you see, that's what our statute in 1950 we reformed, mainly to provide water to the purification facilities along the bayou. And of course, as we've transitioned to combat this coastal land loss crisis, language has been added to our enabling statutes to allow us for conveyance of fresh water for the use of coastal restoration. So, and that's really what's been keeping us busy over the last few years. So I'll flip through this slide. Most of you all are familiar with this, but in case anybody doesn't, this is the northern section. This is the Mississippi River here, where Bayou Lafourche used to get. So this is the first modern stretch of Bayou Lafourche where the changes were made in the early 1900s. So going back to the mid-1800s to late 1800s, Bayou Lafourche used to flow naturally. Mississippi River used to flow naturally into Bayou Lafourche. About 10 to 20% of its flow used to come down the bayou. Obviously, it was a major commerce corridor up to that point. This is in the 1870s. The railroad constructed a bridge across the bayou. Back then, it was built with a turnstile to allow for both commerce to cross the railroad, to cross over the bayou, but also for the bridge to open to allow navigation into the river and down out into ports. A lot of pressure back in these times on the farmers and the plantation owners with flooding, and now that the shift of commerce was now taken off of strictly Bayou Lafourche, there was enough pressure built, and in the early 1900s, in 1902 actually, the bayou was dammed off there in Donaldsonville and completed in 1904. So at this point, the natural flow from the river into the bayou was completely cut off. And then the northern portion of the bayou basically just became a drainage ditch. So naturally, commerce increased on the railroad. There were some structural stability issues with the crossing over Bayou Lafourche. So the Texas Southern Pacific Railroad at that time filled in the bridge with a earthen embankment and put only a 5x6 box culvert through the bayou there and through the crossing there in Donaldsonville. So if you can imagine 10 to 20% of the Mississippi River coming down Bayou Lafourche, and only 40 years later, the only thing that was allowed to flow through this crossing here was what you could push through a 5x6 box culvert. So you can understand how the dramatic change of that northern portion of Bayou Lafourche. So obviously things began to develop and the freshwater district was formed and the pump station was built in 1955 by the Department of Public Works. And at that point they added 2 9-foot culverts through the embankment. And for all practical purposes, this was the configuration in this first half mile stretch until really 2014, which we'll kind of get into that. So in the early 90s, there was a big push to tie Bayou Lafourche back into the river, mainly for the wetlands and the ecosystem down in Lower Terrebonne and Lower Lafourche. So in the early 90s, they initiated a project that ultimately was labeled the Mississippi River Reintroduction into Bayou Lafourche Project. And not to go into the details, but it was studied to exhaustion. They looked at 144 different alternatives to optimize how much water to get, what's the maximum amount of water we could get into Bayou Lafourche from the river without having too many adverse impacts on the communities, but still benefiting the environment, specifically in the lower end. And of course, also protecting the drinking water source from the fastly encroaching saltwater. So this is kind of a snapshot of the large major components. Something had to be done to increase the existing pumping capacity. Our existing pump station has a maximum capacity around 450 cubic feet per second, and it was determined that we had to get to a minimum of 1,000 CFS, cubic feet per second. This is a picture of the railroad crossing in Donaldsonville. You can see barely the 2 9-foot culverts, and the 5x6 box culvert is underwater and most likely filled in this picture. So something had to be done to address that. Also, the weir and Thibodeau needs to be removed. That was identified in the project. And of course, over time, with both natural and man-made filling in of the conveyance channel, a significant amount of dredging had to be done between Donaldsonville and Thibodeau. So that project was carried along from the early 90s into the 2006, 2007, and then, like a lot of things around here, an unfortunate incident of Gustav kind of gave the momentum to the state to begin implementing the first critical phases of this project. So after Gustav, the bayou went septic for about 30 days, and it really kind of brought to light the importance of increasing the freshwater flow into Bayou Lafourche, and it gave the state the will to get the first channel dredging project implemented. So these were some projects that were implemented immediately in the aftermath of Gustav. It was about a $4 million updated pump rehab project at the pump station. We replaced 2 of our original pumps that were put in place in 1955. Those were replaced in 2013. The project was complete. And then a significant channel dredging project, about a $20 million channel dredging project, cleared out the first 5 miles of bayou and opened up that channel, which really was the most critical portion because that had been the most encroached upon the entire length. So those project was completed at the end of 2011, and then we kind of rode that momentum into, with the help of CPRA and the CAP program, we were able to really expand an initial grant of $17 million and blew it up into about a $35 million program from 2013 and 2017, and I'll kind of go through some of those projects. And if anybody's got any questions, I'm trying to flip through this as fast to get to what we're doing now, but just to understand where we came from. So these are some construction projects that were completed. We did a $20 million dredging project. It was about 11 miles that started in Belrose, where the first phase, the first 5 miles ended, and ultimately ended at Assumption High School in Napoleonville. This was a hugely successful project. We didn't have really any issues to date. These areas here depict the disposal locations where we put all the dredge material. So not only did we increase the channel capacity in this stretch, but we also made farmers extremely happy. Sorry, I got a couple photos. We did it all with a suction dredge, so it kept it real clean. I apologize, I'm trying to fly through this. This is a structure you guys have probably seen. This is in Lockport. We were fortunate to obtain some additional grant funding and relocate the pre-existing water control structure from Company Canal. This is looking south. This is the Highway 1 where it bends right there to go over the bridge in Lockport. We utilized the existing barge from Company Canal, built a new receiving structure with sluice gates. And in relocating this structure and utilizing the funds that we did, we had to redesign the closing mechanism and the pin on the barge. Not only can this barge now be utilized in a saltwater intrusion event, so when the saltwater is coming from the south, the barge closes and locks in place to prevent further migration north. You can also close it, and has been done already, in a low water event and a reduction in pumping capacity. The structure can be closed to create a reservoir on the north end for the water plants, specifically the South Lafourche plant, which is right there in Lockport, just above this structure. So that was a good project to add on to the CF funding. And then another project we were able to complete. This was not as significant as a price tag, but it tremendously helped our operations. There was a pedestrian bridge located in Napoleonville that caused headaches for us. It's right in the middle of the stretch from Thibodaux to Donaldsonville. So anytime we had to respond to any issues on the northern reaches of the bayou, we couldn't pass our equipment through here, so it was a considerable cost to the freshwater district to truck the equipment around. So we were fortunate enough to, this is what it looks like, a profile from the bayou, and this is what it looked like before. So as you can see, we were able to open that up. So now all of our equipment can flow and float all the way north to Donaldsonville uninhibited. And that kind of shows what it looks like as well. And this was a project that was very near and dear to our heart. I know Wendell, when he was a board member, he was extremely influential in getting this done. He actually gave the presentation, which I still think is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen, in Omaha to the Union Pacific Railroad. So this issue, this is looking south in Donaldsonville. This is LA 308, and this is Highway 1 here, and this is the new railroad bridge crossing. So this project had been discussed, disputed, argued about for, I don't know, Wendell, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And
To get all that money that was spent south of here, none of it done any good because you could only pass 200 cubic feet of water underneath. You have before pictures?
yeah, I'm gonna get to that. I got some pictures of it during construction. But we were very fortunate with the timing, the money, the politics, everything lined up, and we were able to get this project done at the end of 2016. And the really exciting thing was the original estimates were in the $16 to $20 million range, and we were able to do it for under $5 million. This is what it looked like before. This is actually the opposite view. This is actually looking north with 308 on the right and LA 1 on the south.
I understand, the culverts are underneath this.
And you can see
And
real
the
close,
river's
there's a
just
guy
on the top.
fishing right here, and he sits on top of the culverts. So this is some snapshots. This was a remarkable project. If you look at the date and the timestamp on the bottom, this is the last train to actually pass Thanksgiving morning in 2016 at 8 o'clock. You can see they're already hooked up to the rails, ready to move them out the way. We had a 36-hour window to get this project completely in place so that the trains can be opened back to service. So this is 2 minutes after he passed. They've already lifted the track. This is later that day. The very next morning, they've already got the vents in place and they've already began to put the spans in. The main span came in later the afternoon the next day, and then the very next morning, the first train passed back over.
Unreal.
So this work obviously continued for a couple weeks to excavate out underneath it. Here you can really see a picture. We reduced the flow so they could start excavating, and you can see the top of the pipes that are actually ultimately going to get dug up. And then this is the final product, and you'll see as it fades in, this is after, and then this is before, and I think it'll go back. I guess I got it all again. So this is what it looks like now. So this really, literally and figuratively kind of blew everything open for us. Once this restriction was removed, then there was nothing else in our way outside of our powers to implement the remaining components, obviously except money. So
Well, again, to go back to the beginning, okay, Scott Mongel was involved with it. Ben was able to get the right players at the table, they developed the right strategy. But we were thinking hopefully in 5 years, get something done, hopefully less than 15 to 20 million. It got done basically in a couple of years. At what price?
$4.4 million.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Good engineering.
So, these are now the projects that we have going on on the engineering, planning and engineering today. So the first project is a water control structure project that's going to be located just north of Lavee'ville. Don't know if you guys are familiar. There's the Concien Canal, which connects Lake Verret to Bayou Lafourche, is just north of here. This is LA1. This is 308 on this side. This is north. And the bayou obviously flows south. This is a structure that's going to allow us, much like the structure in Lockport, in the instances of a low flow condition for an extended period of time, we'll be able to shut this structure and create a reservoir for the residents and customers on the northern portion, specifically Assumption and Ascension. So once this structure is in place, we'll be able to really control the water surface elevations in the bayou year-round.
With the new pump station, will that be much of a problem?
It will not, but it's still going to be a necessity.
Yes.
So it's a necessity today, and it's definitely going to be a necessity as we continue dredging and open up the bayou more. Any extended shutdown that we have, we're going to see great reductions in water surface elevations to the north, and not only from a drinking water supply standpoint, but we also start to see bank stability issues when the water surface elevation drops, and then we get hit with storm events and it raises and drops it over a very short period of time. So this is going to allow us to mitigate that. In the wall, in the receiving structure wall, there's 2 sluice gates on each side, so we'll really be able to control those elevations precisely. So this is it here. And this is the daddy of them all. So this is the proposed new pump station. You can see the existing pump station here. This is in Donaldsonville. This is the Mississippi River levee, obviously the Mississippi River. And this is the proposed station here. The existing station, as I said earlier, has a capacity of between 400 and 500 cubic feet per second. This station's being designed for a minimum of 1,000. And we're actually including in the design and construction 2 additional bays, which we can add additional pumps to in the future if we determine that the bayou can handle the additional capacity. The reason adding those pumps is not so critical in the interim is because this pump station is still fully functional and can facilitate any additional pump capacity needed for the foreseeable future. The estimates on this, here's a layout. Here's the river here. The existing pump station crosses over the levee. The discharge pipes will go underground next to our existing pipes, and then it'll discharge into the head of Bayou Lafourche here, just next to our existing pump station and discharge outlet. I have a video, I don't know, I think you meant. This kind of gives you a little flyover of the pump station, just so you can kind of understand the size and magnitude. So while we're going through this, the water control structure project that I had highlighted earlier, the money for that project from planning, engineering, all through construction has been allocated, is in place. So we're anticipating that structure to go out to bid sometime in May of this year, and be completed, sometime by the end of the year. So that structure should be up and operational, before the January 2020. This project here, is an estimated $65 million, construction project. The freshwater district has to date, covered a majority of the engineering fee, probably 90% of the engineering cost. Currently, we are right at 90% complete. We're awaiting some compliance from the Corps of Engineers on their 404 and 408 review. We're expecting to have that before the end of the year, and currently the plan is for this project to go out to bid for construction in January of 2020. So we have been successful in securing the funding for the construction of that through the Department of Environmental Quality's revolving loan fund program. So CPRA is going to assist us in servicing the debt involved in that. So that project is set to go to construction January 2020, and we're expecting about a 2.5 year construction time frame. So that's really exciting. That's a major undertaking for the district for sure. We felt overwhelmed a little with the $17 million dredging project, so this is going to be real interesting. And then the last project that we have highlighted is the Thibodeau weir removal. This is going to remain in place until the completion of the water control structure project in Lavee'ville. And once we're comfortable that that structure is in place and functioning properly, we're going to go ahead and initiate the planning and engineering to get this structure removed and out of the way. So this is about $1.5 million project that the funds have also been allocated and recognized. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ben, what effect will that don't have on us down here, the removal of the weir? How will that affect us?
None.
It actually, it's about affecting the water north of it.
Yeah.
That's just a place that.
To retain water,
Well,
whatever.
yeah, well,
I was wondering, will
that
we
whole
remove it,
issue.
it won't affect us at all?
No.
Because
There'll be additional water coming down by Lafourche, right? And that water's gonna come to us.
Yeah, but all it does, I mean, but what the weir does, it just slows it down and keeps it high enough to maintain so they can have some water to the north. We still get the same amount coming down. It's just that the slope is so, it would get down faster, not more water, but just faster. And that's why they've had to put the weir there. It's totally about keeping water for the businesses and the water plants north of this spot. Because at this point, the pipe got so quickly, you couldn't guarantee water being held up. That's why with the thing in Lockport and the one right behind Pontiac Canal, now those things take care of what this thing was doing. So this will be taken out.
Correct. So if we ever have a situation where we lose power, or we have a pump station malfunction, or there's a significant spill in the river, anything that would cause us to reduce our pump capacity for an extended period of time, we would simultaneously close the gate in Lockport and close the gate in Lavee'ville, and essentially retain all the water from Lockport to Donaldsonville in the bayou until the whatever is causing the reduction mitigated itself.
And the natural tidal flow will keep the water level elevated on us down here.
Correct.
And that's
But there's gonna be salt water.
Correct, but the gate in Lockport will be shut.
But again, the big difference is that 1,000 cubic feet per second possibility. That does add more water, widen them out. That's some of the reasons it's gonna affect us to some degree. And you add 1,000 cubic feet of water coming down, and then water control structures on the intercoastal. Now we are stacking up water to make a difference to everybody along the bayou. And that's, I think, Peter was talking about the coordination of what's open and what's not open. Right now, it's the Bayou Payroll and the Home Navigation Canal, they control the water elevation in their coastal canal, not the water coming down to the mud. The tide's high, it's gonna hold it up and it goes down. But once we have some control on those ends, well, then that all plays a part on what the water level's gonna be.
Ben,
Yes, sir.
how deep are the suction for the new pumps?
The suction side, go down to a -10. Ballpark, don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Spill up road with any kind of spill up road would affect it.
Yeah, most of the spills we see on the river are usually diesel, which doesn't really cause us a major issue because it flows from the
Close
top.
up, yeah.
There was a benzene spill in '97, which was a big deal. You know, but as far as a spill lasting, you know, a month, you know, there are time of travel studies that pretty much have the leading and trailing ends of any kind of contamination down to a pretty good science where we know pretty well when the leading edge of a spill is at us to shut down, and then when the trailing edge is past us, that we can turn back on. The main thing is some kind of catastrophic pump failure, lightning strike, or something.
All that has been put on DVDs, the flow, the river flow, and the stuff, you know. The guy named Joe Smith did that study, 1994 or something like that, you know. But I mean, it depends what the chemical is and what sinks and what doesn't, you know, what
Absolutely.
disperses and what doesn't.
Right.
But, yeah, it was the benzene board, so that was one, we shut down for a couple of days, 3 days.
Yeah, no, it was over a week.
A week, yeah. By Sunshine Bridge.
Yeah. And that's obviously the worst, is an incident like that just near our intakes.
You know, downriver, there's a lot of water intakes, and
Yeah.
we know exactly when to
That's
shut
right.
it down, you know.
That's exactly right. And then there's a project that's going on up in Donaldsonville that's gonna alleviate some of the drainage concerns that they have. This is that railroad bridge crossing. One of the issues is this is an underpass underneath the railroad on LA 308. Historically, the pump station operators have had to play weathermen and try to predict how much rain we're gonna get. So they drop the bayou elevations as much as they can, but they're just human. So sometimes the rainfall events that we get are larger than anticipated, so it puts water up on the underpass. So we have designed and ready to go to construction with some capital outlay money, 2 sump pumps here on the northern and southern end of the railroad crossing. That's gonna eliminate the problem there for the city. So this is just kind of a highlight of the dollar amounts. I'll just put through this. So the pump station upgrades, I said, were $4 million. The railroad, 4.2. The channel dredging combined was 41. The Lockport saltwater control structure was 4.2, and the pedestrian bridge was 900,000 for a total of $54.3 million. And that was really from 2009 to 2016. So in a 7-year span, we made some significant improvements on the bayou. And then this is what we currently have underway. So the water control structure in Leveeville is $2.5 million. The pump capacity improvement 65, and the weir removal is $1.5 million, along with the Donaldsonville drainage, for a total of 70. So really, from 2009 until basically the end of 2022, the freshwater district, with coordination with the state and a few federal agencies, will have made about $125 million worth of improvements to Bayou Lafourche. So a considerable amount of work. I think you can see, if you travel specifically further on the northern end, in the Thibodaux and Lavetteville and those areas, I think you can certainly see the product of this work. The bayou looks a whole lot better and enjoyable, and we're starting to see people get back in it. And then, of course, the concerns of drinking water being contaminated for an extended period of time are going down. So this is where we got to go, as I talked about. The water control structure that we're removing, the pump station, and then we got to keep dredging. We've dredged 15 miles of the total 29 miles projected. So once this work is complete, we'll have to phase in that channel dredging as we can afford it. And then that reintroduction to Bayou Lafourche project that was dreamed up in 1990 will be completely implemented. So with that, I will certainly open up to any questions if anybody has. Sorry, that drug on too long.
Well, Very informative, Ben.
Yeah.
Any questions of him? Thank you.
And, Big Gator had a party to get that legislation passed to build the system.
They're gonna have another.
Turn it off.
All right. So
Get another one.
you,
Oh, okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
That was the intermission. The intermission in this movie.
We had a little break.
Yeah, I got that here to make.
Go get me some popcorn.
Is yours gonna be short?
Just when you thought the show was
Well,
over.
I only come once a year.
Okay, well, one of the big things is going on, the biggest hole in our system, you know, that we put HESCO baskets on, was how they wanted it left the system. You know, and, you know, HESCO baskets work pretty well, but getting a steel wall that's in place would be fantastic. So, here's where the old road was, here's where the bypass is right now, all the construction's going on. And then here's the actual location of where the road's gonna be. Contractor's moving along real well, he's right on schedule. And again, we're north looking south, okay? Okay, now we're south looking north, and again, here's the present relocation, this is where the road used to be. And it's gonna be pretty straight all the way through here, and just right at the end, there'll be a little curve that we're gonna have to get on, but compared to what's there right now, it's gonna be nothing. So, should be a lot safer for everybody, and a good situation. Also, the high point here, because of the design, and because of the geometry of the building, we're actually gonna be moving the gate. It's not gonna be aligned with the sheet pile here. It's gonna be in this area here. So this sheet pile is gonna run over here, the gate will be here. We'll have to extend the levee a little bit over here. So there's gonna be a little difference, but it's still gonna be a 12-foot elevation on top. But with the steel, we'll go up to about 18, I believe. And again, just another view of looking out, inside, outside. A little larger view, and again, sad situation, but so many times now we're seeing this all in the water. Even storms that don't hit our area, this goes on. But the big advantage to us is that we can leave that opening open the whole time till people get out. And, you know, let's go back to the plan and close it way ahead because we're sure when things are gonna happen. With that gate, we can get it closed in a couple of minutes. And then here's on the ground, they're taking out the old foundation and redoing the foundation for the work down there. This is outside looking in. Again, this is someone looking in that area. And again, this is the bypass, here's the old road, and then the new road comes straight through. This is where we're gonna cross with the gate itself. And then we also, we're waiting on word from CPRA. I was told by Chip Klein that we would get our money free to get the contract. We're waiting on the word to award. But we've got the parapet wall up here. This is the improvements. Remember, we did the gates, raised it from 8 feet to 13. This is at 8 feet. Now we got the steel here up at 13. And now the project that we're waiting on is to put that sheet pile from here and connect here in that direction. And do the same thing with the parapet wall. This is here to show you the elevation we're gonna have. And in fact, that's a 5-foot wall. And we have a little trouble looking, so we're gonna have to make some adjustments to be able to get our operator, the floodgate, to be able to see the traffic as it goes through. Again, here's that was just added recently. Now we have 5-foot elevation, and that 5 feet is gonna be extended to the sheet pile that will be put in eventually. And here's on the east side. And here's our control building. And you can see here's a gate closed, and this is where the seam is made. Just looking at the other side, again, attaching to the 13 feet gates will be improved. Just another view of the same thing. Here's a bolt waiting to get through. You know, we have, when we have high water, we have scheduled openings, and they wait until that time. And it's worked out pretty well. We don't get too many complaints about this. People understand that we've got to maintain the water elevation in the body. A lot of people don't understand, though, that we have a good 5 to 6 feet of water between the water elevation and the top of the road here. But we do this because if we didn't, Golden Meadow would be underwater. You see, we actually blocking that water from coming from the holes and going down, and where LA one is right at 1 foot elevation, you would have some flood situations going on. And this is what we build up, and part of the project is gonna put a sheet pile wall in here that'll be capped with concrete up to 13-foot elevation. And that's how it looks now. Again, the aerial shot. And again, here's the church side, and again, as we approve this, 13, we've got 13 to here and here, and now the last phase is gonna be putting 13 to here, and getting 13 to here, and then trying the sheet pile wall here. There was a little problem with them closing the gate, Joe, is that all been taken care of?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so it's pretty complete, it's completed now.
Yeah, they still have some stuff to do with, caulking and whatnot and making that stuff.
What about that section of levee that we raised in front of the church? Is that's holding up pretty well? I mean,
Yeah,
we
it
had a
held up
problem,
well.
we had to move it over a bit because of danger sliding in, but it's solved.
It's holding up for now. I mean, you have one section, right in the corner that kind of slid, but we will be, as Wendell said, we will be putting an eye wall there, up until where the pipeline crosses. So we're gonna, actually in this next project, we're gonna cut down the profile of that with some, so it'll relieve some of that pressure.
How about the problems of boats pulling up, getting that corner and using it as a pivoting to turn? You still have problems
This
with
time,
that?
I haven't seen any damage there. Greg, have you seen anything?
There hasn't been anything since the last boat that hit it.
I'm encouraged.
We need more.
They have something, they lost his engine, that's something. Trash, they were kicking the house.
Okay, then, see south again, again, you see this dirt here, this is in our borrow canal that was about 7 feet deep, that's about the material we pulled over to the side. And getting this in shape, again, you put on the levee, being prepared to do the work. We met with the contractor, and Neil and Drake and I, to get the final phase of this taken and done right, so we can, again, the goal of this is to get all this material where we can go with our equipment and grab it and shape it into the levee. And here's again sheet piles, that we're continuing to have to maintain the edge of the levee where we, our canal's gotten so large in some areas. And again, the landowners they spray sometimes right to the edge of the water canal and kill the grass. The areas of the grass stays up, we have no erosion issues. It's where we don't have grass, so, it's, just like, on the body, you can see some people have erosion problems because they're cutting the grass and spraying the grass and knock out the grass that would protect their property. You look where the junk coupons are growing, you don't have any erosion problem at all.
Where that fresh dirt is, that's how much had eroded?
Yeah, that's what we had put up, yeah. And that, so we have to do this, there's no choice, it's a little more expensive than we had hoped, but we still gotta do it, so. Whether it's expensive or not expensive, we need to get it done. And then, you can see, this is, pump station number 2, and one of the places we put the sheet pile, and again, our goal is to stop the wave action, it's not to stop the water. If the wave action stops, well, then the vegetation can grow and you won't get any erosion at all. It's worked out well for us wherever we use this process. Again, just more shots on doing. And kind of showing you, here's grass starting to grow in there where we don't think we'll have to put sheet pile. Here's a place that it continues to erode, and we're gonna have to get in and put some sheet pile in there to stop it. And it's pretty easy. When you see just raw dirt, you know you got a problem. Yeah. Where the grass is growing, you know you can just drop on. So that's worked out. Also, how low the line is. We've got the canal down to about a minus 6.5 feet. Okay, that's 6.5 feet below sea level. That's where the borrow canal is now. And here is the land barely, less than a foot above that. And I'm just telling you, the land here is at about 6 feet below sea level.
But it's worth $10,000 an acre.
According to some erroneous decisions that some people made that don't know what property is worth. Okay. Again, here's the levee here. In that same area, this is what the outside looks like. Got to keep on reminding people. The levees work so well that we kind of forget how bad it is. That, that minus 6 feet, that if we didn't have the levee, this is at about a +1, so you have about 7 feet of water over that land that we just showed you. Here's between pump station, here's pump station 2 and it's looking south, pump station number one. Again, that contractor continues to put the dirt over, but here, our equipment's out here throwing the material on the levee, and of course, we've raised most of this levee up to 18 feet. And again, having the contractor throw the dirt close enough that our equipment over here can put it up here, we can actually work into the levee. And right now, we got to the point we're gonna have some excess there. You know, we know compaction's gonna continue, we're gonna lose some elevation. But in 6, 7 years from now, instead of having to get a big contractor to put dirt there, we'll just have to get our small equipment and reshape the levee and bring it back to the 18 feet. So that's one of the things we've been doing. This has been a little expensive. It's a good per cubic yard price at $3 a cubic yard, it's real good. But we actually are saving money for the future when we don't know what the economy's gonna be. But, so, we'll, at not too expensive price, we can keep that elevation up in the future. This is pump station number 2. We need to do some more work over here. You can see we have this erosion over here. We've raised the dirt around the levee, around the pipes, but, we're gonna come in here probably with some rocks and get this where, stop this erosion over here. That's at pump station number 2. And you can see the erosion we have here. This is on top, we've basically covered the pipes, and that is probably close to, probably a 17, 18 foot elevation, by the way. That's looking south. I'll get back to some of the other areas we did that. AE's repairs, again, the grass starts to grow out toward the sheep pile once we break that wave action. East-South levee. Now, this is one of the levees that our flood insurance, we've got very good flood rates, but this levee has dropped below the elevation it has to be. So this job is coming along. Contract is putting the material up, and you know, once it dries a little bit, we'll follow with our equipment or a contractor and bring it back up. It was 13, it's dropped to some areas below 12. And so we're gonna get this back up to hopefully 14 and a half to 15. And that's looking south. And that's the marsh on the outside. The marsh is still in pretty good shape. This is kind of what it used to be on the west side, but not the cutoff. Now these ponds are starting to open up, but it's still pretty stable marsh. Here we look at back, this is Holy Farm sticking out from the levee. Here's the Bayou Lourdes community right over here. You can see the ridge outside here. And of course, he's cutting the bank and throwing it here. And of course, we'll come back, head it to the top and shape it. And we had nice Joe coupons here, so we're gonna make sure to shape it so that we can get that natural growth again, so we don't have to put the sheep out. Again, looking south. And then more down to the Gulf. Again, I gotta thank the Mr. here, Stevie's here, and the contractor. All of the team players let us get the maximum out of this job. Paid $1.25 a cubic yard, that's crazy numbers, crazy good. And put a ton of material, and what was just kind of a bunch of spread out marsh, elevation 6 to over 10 feet. This job has worked out tremendously well, and again, for moved what, 1.3 million?
1.6.
1.6 million, and so 1.8 million dollars. Crazy.
No, it was on 1.25, is right at 2, huh?
Well, the numbers I was looking at.
The whole bid was 2 something, but I mean, the whole project was 2 something, but it was the payment item for the excavation was right at $2 million.
But an incredibly good deal for everybody. Again, going back here, probably have to truck in the material, so where we paid $1.25 a cubic yard, trucking it might be $15 to $20. Was that Mitch?
Oh, he and I, we picking on each other. It's nothing. I will tell you though, that's like literally the last bucket. That's the day that they stopped dredging those pictures. That's literally the last couple buckets you've seen in those pictures.
Yeah, and now look, these people in Terrebonne really were looking at this at Pointe-aux-Chenes. But you know, there's 2 really good days when you do the project. The second best day is when you open the bids and you get a good bid to get it done. The number 1 day is when you finish a contract, and that's what we're looking at right here. That's the best day. You got the material up and now you can start doing your work. And there's a CPRA has got a mitigation project just south of the levee where we have the lock, the levee on the east side. And this, that's how the marsh kind of looks after that. It's not too pleasing. You know, again, the bays are all connected, it's hard to tell the difference between them. But here you're looking, that's White Lafourche Ridge right here, the levee somewhere over here. But now here's the levee. The lock is just above here, that's the loop wall. There's a canal that goes to the east. This area here will be filled in by the project. You're gonna be dredging in by Lafourche and filling this in with, and turning this into marsh. I'm not sure if they'll be coming onto this side or not, but we will get the southern border. It's a good marsh project and it's good for our levee. And this is another project that Ducks Unlimited, ConocoPhillips, CPRA. We did our CIAP project over here. This is where the old Neon pump station used to be. And this is the open area here. This project, they're planning to be finished in the middle of summer, so they're gonna move pretty quickly and they're about ready to get started. So they're gonna put some containment dikes over here, fill these in, and then, again, all this is hydraulic dredging in the middle of Catfish Lake. And then, after they have this done, they're just gonna start putting material between the levee and the containment dikes. So that's a great protection for our levee, and it's a good project, environmental project. And again, that should be finished by the middle of summer, so that's all good stuff for our situation. Again, also every year we get a centerline survey, and we got the survey up here. You look, it's great seeing that pink stuff. That means that's higher than we designed our levee to be. But the most important thing is there's a dotted red line that shows what the flood insurance says we're supposed to have now. Now, the flood insurance is good. Flooding situation, we want all of it pink, but the main thing is to have above the dotted line. And we talked about the project that we're doing on east-south. But what we have black is where we're below what the flood elevation for insurance should be. So those are the projects we're working on over here. There's a couple of other little spots in E-North. If you look on the west side, there's only a couple little spots that we have to look at. But we're gonna take care of these things and make sure the flood insurance issue doesn't come and get us. But the other side is, flood insurance is something we pay attention to. But the main thing is not to have flooding waters get into our system. And so that's the number one thing we're worried about. And we're doing a really good job of getting above the elevations that we thought would be the best to protect our people. And we've got the west side, we've got excess on the west side, and we're almost finished with that. We'll jump to the east side and start building a little more excess on that side. But again, we're at elevations now that we're really gonna have to get the worst part of a pretty bad storm here, water over top. The problem is they're out there and they can't get us. But now we're gonna have to be unlucky. You know, some places have to be lucky not to flood. We're in a situation we're gonna have to be unlucky to flood. But the possibility is always out there. We'll keep on improving the system as well as we can. Any questions about the graph? Okay, GIS engineering professional agreement contract. I'd like for you all to pass a resolution allowing the board president to sign upon consulting with our attorney on signing that agreement with GIS.
Agreement.
Was that
Agreement is okay too. Not just consulting, the recommendation to agree.
Yeah, well, that's it. The consultant that he would recommend whether we should sign or change or we're gonna give the right president to do that.
Can you get a recommendation of our general manager to the authority to sign this upon the review and approval of our attorneys? Moved by Mitch, seconded by Mac. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Okay, Daniel Lorraine talked about the donation funds and, you know, the parish working with us on trying to get some construction done as well. I just wanted to mention that, and Daniel explained that. West side erosion repair, I showed y'all some of the pictures. We still need to do some more work. We need for you to authorize us to spend another $35,000 to take care of some of those areas.
Can you bring the request of our general manager to authorize another $35,000 for east side, west side soil erosion sheet pile? No issues. Moved by Roland, seconded by Keith. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Okay, and, our engineers, said there's more material we can take out, maybe as much as, another 250,000 cubic yards of material. Of course, that would cost us something like $750,000, that's a sizable amount of money. I would, suggest that we call an executive committee meeting and go over all that and see if that's the best thing to do. There's no doubt that 3,000 cubic yard, which is what, the contractors doing that stuff twice, it's a great price. And we would like to get that, because I can't believe we can get a better price than that, but at the same time, we have to look at our other projects.
What's
So,
the precise location of that?
well, that's on the west side, that's from
Yeah.
pump station number 1 all the way to the Apache Farm, okay, that side. But what's kind of nice, they found material where we have kind of less stuff, less material stacked up. So it was trying to work out, but it's a big chunk of money, and we have these other projects that we're gonna do. So we have to, I think, really look at it and chew on it a while before we decide whether to go with it or not. But we don't have a lot of time, because that contract is gonna be leaving probably about another 4 or 5 months.
Probably
2 months, okay, so.
So we have executive-
Yeah, I'd like us to talk about it, I didn't have the numbers well enough for us to make a hard decision with it yet, but we'll take a look
Let
at
me
it.
ask you another question. The Airmore Shooting Academy, what's the situation?
We had no problem, I'll tell you, with I forget the gentleman's name that's leasing it right now. But we had not had a penny of a problem, I mean, nothing, no problem at all. They worked with the, I don't know if they worked with the contractor, but we have none of our people have had any issues, the contractor not talked about it at all.
Mr. Ronald, I spoke to Mr. Bruce, I happened to be at his facility, and I thank him on behalf of the Levee
Exactly.
District, his cooperation, because he was aware of what problems we had previously, so he's been more than
It's
cooperative.
to everybody's benefit to work together on this, Good, okay, thank you.
So again, just to sort of reiterate that, I mean, he came, talked to me before, we had the new, he was gonna lease it, and he had a new contractor just started, and he said, just let us know, we'll work with you, and we can't say enough about the cooperation. Great for the community. Permit with DNR secretary, we're still trying to get the retention pond permit. John and I met with the secretary and with the chief person, and there's still one paragraph in there where they're saying Wildlife and Fisheries wants us to do mitigation. And I looked at the letter, the letter says, if there's no mitigation, forced mitigation, then they're okay with it, but if you're gonna mitigate, please do this. Well, DNR's taking like, well, let's do this, because that's in that letter. So, we don't think they're saying that, so we still have a little bit of a problem. John, what's your
Right,
opinion?
so that when synopsized that pretty well, but we're drafting a letter to Wildlife and Fisheries to get them to get that paragraph taken out of the draft document.
Okay, well, actually, if Wildlife and Fisheries says, you say there's no mitigation, we don't have a problem. So actually, we just need to talk to DNR and send a letter saying, look, that's not what they said. Because they have an agreement with Wildlife and Fisheries, if they say something, they have to put it in. Well, to me, they said, if this happens, then mitigate, but there's no mitigation.
But if you get a lot of fish, you take it out, then you probably don't.
Correct, and it's whether we talk to one or talk to the other, but DNR, we've already talked to DNR, so now we're gonna talk to Wildlife and Fisheries and say, look, according to DNR, you don't need this paragraph, but they put it in, can you ask them to take it out? So,
Well, you know what, you're right. It's just 6 years, guys. It's unbelievable. Okay, Rich K, from Argenta to Gulf, and again, we showed a little bit about it. Steve should talk about it some more, but it's a finished job and it came out great. I'll tell you, for the money and the time, they actually did it quicker than the original time, even though we added more materials. So
That's correct.
can't say nothing but good about that contract. There's a two-way street, and they work with us a lot. General Kaiser, who was at the office in Vicksburg, to be promoted and go to headquarters, this guy, of all the years dealing with the Corps, we've seen everything, wasted time and money, and he's helped turn it to more sensible, save time and money. It's not it's a big deal. If we could ever get him in charge of all the Corps, that would be a fantastic thing.
He gets it.
He does, this guy, he's about getting stuff done, it's not about process, it's about the project, which is just the opposite. The Corps has always been just process, and if the project works out, great, but, And again, we've had other people thought that way, but the people that have been appointed and this administration allow those people to do smart things and more efficient things. So, can't say enough good things about it, and if you're in touch with any of your congressmen, let them know that General Kais is a good person. The rules Ted Gisclair floodgate improvement. Parapet wall, we already showed it, and it came out great. No other comments, too? And then, of course, we looked at the floodgate at the lock. And that's all I have.
Any questions of Wyndham? Thank you. We'll move to engineering report. David, CPRA.
Daniel?
He just said 10 pounds.
I know. I didn't have
I thought about saying, if they call you Mitch, get up and leave, you advance you.
I'm not letting you go on that. It's this cool, man. No, I just want to report a little bit on that T78. It's the CPRA section of retail in Morgantown. It's moving along. I mean, the weather's been a little bit hit or miss. So Philway is a contractor. At least they are now close to 70% done with the embankment. So it is getting underway there finally. So and still looking at probably third quarter completion, July, August, maybe at the earliest. So I know there's the issue of the mitigation and how it's. I remember last time we talked about that I think CPRA was waiting on Arcadis to give us a geotechnical analysis of the slope, and I actually just talked to the project engineer, and he just got as he put it, a novel from them today. So he's looking through it. So he just actually, as we are speaking here, he left me a voicemail. So he told me to call him right after this. But so we'll check back with that and let you all know.
Yeah, and again, and mitigation, just sitting out ready to move and waiting on a word from CPRA to say, go ahead and do it.
That's it.
Any questions of Daniel?
What about Mitchell?
The reason it's important to get that information is because the rest of our money for Reaches K&L is tied up on what the mitigation project is gonna cost. So as we start talking about going to shape that material and do different things, we can't even move forward with that until we know, because there's no money left, for us to spend. So, when we talk to people, we really need that answer so we can move forward with that project.
So in other words, we gotta advertise and get a
We need a
price,
number.
and we can know.
We need a number.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Daniel? Okay, project engineer, just Joe Associates, Joe.
Yes, on the LA1 elevation and realignment of the Levee, Ontario locks, Barn Talbot's the contractor. They've been working on the roadway embankment work. Most of that's the grade. They still got some compaction to do on the south side. They did move the crane in last week to offload the sheet piles and the H piles, and they moved the crane out to go do another job, but they're moving it back later this week to start driving that stuff. So you're gonna see a lot of activity going on in the next week or so. The contractor has submitted his payout number 3 in the amount of $66,662.20. We do recommend your approval.
Okay, your recommendation of engineers to pay request number 3 to Byron Talbot, right? $66,332.20. Moved by Rowan, second by Rich. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And the east-south excavation, you saw the video, the pictures on the Windows slideshow. The contractor is Southern Delta, and they're continuing to dredge and moving their way south from north. They have submitted the application number 3 in the amount of $31,525.74, and we recommend you get that.
Any further recommendation of engineers to pay Southern Delta pay request number 3 in the amount of $31,525.74. Your wish. Moved by Byron. Second by Rowan. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And also this project, the steel parapet wall at the LaRose floodgate. The contractor is Sea Level Construction. They did finish the fabrication and installation of the parapet wall. We did do the final punch list for them. They're working on that now. It's mostly caulking and whatnot. They do also have the application number 3 in the amount of $35,901 even. We do recommend you pay that.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the engineers to pay Sea Level, pay request number 3 in the amount of $35,901. Your wishes, moved by Matt, second by Mitch. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And we do have our LaRose floodgate improvements. This is the steel frame wall and concrete eye wall. We did receive bids on March 21st. Sea Level Construction was a low bidder in the amount of $351,351.50 for the base bid. And we did have an alternate number 1, which was to put some sheet pile that we had left over at the David Industries dock on the levee and some riprap. And that was $85,936 for a total of $2,451,287.50. So this bid was a really good bid. They're about $1 million under the next bidder, but they're confident in their numbers, and we've worked with them before. They're a good contractor. So we recommend you approve that, I guess contingent upon those securing whatever funding needs to get.
Well, that's CPRA, still waiting on security, for approval to use that money, that's
So
our money.
we move to accept it subject to obtaining the funds. Do we have to leave a motion in that effect?
Yes.
When we get the funds, then we turn around and accept.
You can do it subject to.
Yeah, okay, let's move.
Okay, recommendation of the engineers to accept the sea level, right?
Yes.
Their low bid of $2,451,257.50, subject to approval and obtaining of the funds to do this project. That covered? Your wishes, moved by Max, seconded by Bob. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Any other questions of them? Okay, we'll move to GIS engineer, John.
Okay, by Lafourche water level control, we've already discussed the meeting when I had with the head of DNR. We are also prodding our geotech to come up with the approval process for, because the Corps, where we're gonna be tying into the actual levee, the Corps is gonna require that. So they are progressing with that. The crane and pump station number 4, we've got 2 other sub-consultants that are working on that, trying to get them together so they can get the information that Drake and Popeye need to move those muffins.
John, what is the estimated cost of the bio water control?
It is a little less than $1 million, as I recall, on of the 5 alternates we did. I think we chose one of the less expensive ones, so.
So that is something that easy to obtain with the finance for us.
Well, again, with that.
Oh, there's years of age to get approved and not be able to build it.
But
The
the
legal
surplus
mentioned
money.
6 years, I think it's more than that, we're trying to get the permit.
We had the surplus money, we have 5.1, and with that bid on the job at the Rolls floodgate of only 2.4, 2.5, we still have some of that excess money, it just keeps on giving to people. We've been having that money for 8 years, and every time we get a bid, it's half or less than what the original
The give that keeps on giving.
expectation. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, John? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Engineer Pacioli, Dean?
Be on B-North and B-South levee improvements, that's based on pump stations to go in Mountain Park. The contractors, concentrating partners, they are continuing with construction, they're nearing the end of their work, and we're recommending approval of their pay request in the amount of $302,091.57.
Okay, you read the recommendation of engineers to, pay request for 23 punch string partners in the amount of $302,901.57. Your wishes. Moved by Bob, second by Mike. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
One other question, to get, where did they plan to fit, like I said, that decision, whether we want to spend another
They,
$750,000.
they still have a couple of weeks left of work, and they have the work that we talked about doing in the back here. So I think in the next 2 weeks, we need to make a decision on that. I don't know when we'll,
Executive committee soon, meeting as soon as possible.
yeah, we could do an executive committee meeting after you and I look at the data.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, on the South Levee improvement, this is just north of the other project from Apache Farm, down to Bason. That contract, the RLB, Contracting Inc. is continuing. They probably have about 2 to 3 months of construction left. Wendell and Drake and I met with them 2 weeks ago to look at all of the work that they have left to do. And in general, most of their excavation is done now. They just have some reshaping of material, moving material a little bit closer to the levee forest to meet our original contract intent. We're recommending approval of their pay request in the amount of $152,537.32.
The recommendation of engineers to create a request number 19 for RLB construction, the amount of $152,537.32. Your move. Moved by Roman, second by Keith. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Okay, and on Morganza to the Gulf Reach L, this is a project going from Grand Bayou out towards the Apache Farms level, where the state project is gonna leave off. Right now, we're finalizing our plans and specs to go out for bid in June on this project. That project's gonna include some options on the Bayou Roof structure.
Okay, any questions in here? Thank you, David. Delta Coast Construction. So, Mitch?
As far as James McManus and I have been meeting on the Reach K mitigation project, we have about $600,000 left in budget. As soon as Dwayne gets back in town, maybe me, you, and Dwayne and Reggie can get together. The Lafourche levee district machine has been broken for, I would say, 90% of this project. So we've got a limited amount of time and resources to go ahead and close it out. So we have some suggestions for some different things. We're about 65% done with that terrace work, but we need to go ahead and wrap it up. So that's what we're looking into. We'll be in touch with you, Wendell, soon to set up a meeting to discuss. And that's really all I have, other than what I mentioned earlier. The floating budget, not having those numbers is something that is unknown to us as we try to plan and do some other things. Wendell, I'm gonna take a trip out there in the airboat, maybe next week to look at the mitigation. Terrebonne's gonna do some planning, which may even include some of these. Planting, not planning. And so if we could all get together and go at the same time, it'd probably be a good deal.
And the one other thing we talked about is we got a bunch of raw dirt stacked up in that project. And the sooner we can shape it so that it can drain and start growing grass, because you have that material with no grass going on, and you get a storm, you can lose a good portion of the material that we put up there. So the sooner we can start shaping and get the grass growing, it's kind of important. But it's all dependent on the money being freed up for some other issues.
And what we're looking at is the northern part on the east bank of the channel has been setting up for, what, Stevie, probably 5 or 6 months now.
So we want to go do a test on that to get a feel for the rest of the project. We can design the rest of the project on what we see happening with that.
That's all I have.
Any questions of Mitch? Thank you, Mitch. Next, Stevie, I'll start this off.
Yeah, so the two projects I have to report on, we discussed a little bit in this meeting already, but I'll be very, very brief. Reach K project, again, that's the main on-site excavation project. That project is basically done. As we joked about earlier, I think those pictures were taken. The last hit of the bucket was swinging, which was a couple weeks ago. Contract has not requested substantial completion yet. We expect him to request it any day now. He is doing some dress-up work on the pile of, I'm not gonna call it 11, I'm not gonna call it access road, but the pile of dirt there. We got somebody with a machine going there, and just making sure water doesn't sit on top of it, as Wendell just mentioned. And again, as they both just mentioned, we are looking to do a little shaping, at least on some section of it, in the near term. I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned this at this board meeting the last time, I know I mentioned it at the Terrebonne meeting. You have about 6.5 miles of new haul road, I'll call it, right, or piles of dirt out there. Look, the levee that you have out there on the west bank ranged from a 3 to a 5 in elevation. Now you got, 6.5 miles, nothing out there is under a 6. Frankly, very little of it is under an 8 right now. And it's also about 100 to 120 feet wide, depending on when you look at it. So even without shaping it into a real levee, you got, 10 times what you had before, okay? Certainly when the contract requests substantial, we're gonna go out there and look at the project with it, but I don't expect any problems moving from substantial to final completion on this job whatsoever. If there's no question on that one, again, the other project that we're working on is the other aspect of mitigation for the Reach K&L levee. The terraces that Mitch was talking about is part of the mitigation, and we also have a marsh area that we're gonna build as part of the mitigation. It's about a 40-acre marsh area, that's what we were talking about, where we're waiting on CPRA to make more progress on the levee that they're doing on the Apache Farm, because the mitigation is right up next to the Apache Farm, and we built the levee guy, get further along, so the mitigation project doesn't affect the levee guy. And that's kind of what David or Daniel or Dennis or whatever his name is right here. The way it's going, this could be Ted Fowler the way this is going.
It's a rough one,
But that's what Daniel was talking about. So now that we know they got a little bit of a recommendation there, people will get together pretty quickly and figure out how fast we can move this project on. And that's it.
Any questions, of Steve? Not Lori Upton?
Thank you. Short update on the Grand Bayou flow control structure. I got confirmation from CPRA today that we should get our comments back this week on our 100% design package that we submitted in March. We're also working with CPRA to give them a construction schedule and additional information that they need to keep the project moving forward. And then we've been coordinating with All South to modify the permit so that it includes a barge gate. Originally, it showed a separate gate. So.
Thank you. Any questions, Luke? Thank you, Luke. Okay, legal permits, Mitch.
We have 2 permits. The first one is from CPRA, and the second one is from Marathon Oil, Marathon Pipeline LLC. After reviewing these 2, looking for the board's approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation of the chairman of the committee to approve it. Second, Monty. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, Mr. Attorney? The finance committee, Monty?
Okay, Mr. President, the Finance Committee met and we reviewed all invoices and we paid as presented.
Okay, you've heard the presentation and the recommendation of Chairman Monty to approve the invoices, seconded by Keith. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, any old business?
It's like to recognize that we have our new carpet in the doors, it's really nice.
Yeah, well, we had a discussion before the meeting. Some person sitting in for the president was very proud of how much was accomplished while he sat in there. Not counting that over $500 million of water protection had been done by the president. But as he sat in, he showed him how quick he worked at getting the carpet in the door approved.
Sorry.
He said the job is good.
And he said, don't give me any credit, just give me the cash.
Sorry, I meant you.
Okay, any other old business? Any new business? I'm gonna do it, Joe. Sorry, I'm gonna do it, John. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
That's good.